What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. This one is going to be starting the assembly of the engine, so I'm pretty stoked about that. It's been about a month since I've had the car apart, so I'm really looking to get this thing back together in a hurry here so I can drive it. Yeah, so what I'm about to do is throw the rocker arm assembly on the cylinder head. I did take it off because I wanted to inspect the valve stem seals. I just wanted to make sure that the work that I did prior was 100%, and I really do think that it was. I was sure that the valve stem seals were fully seated on the valve guides, but I really just wanted to make sure because I'm already in here, so I'm going to check it just to make sure that it wasn't me that caused the oil burning issue. But I really don't think it was. Everything checked out. This thing is looking really good. All the seals look like they're seated properly. I was measuring them with a micrometer and everything, so I think we're going to be all set there. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the rocker arm assembly back on the cylinder head, and then the head is ready to go back onto the car, or back onto the engine rather, whenever I'm ready. And I do have a new head gasket, so there we go. OEM Honda, $100 for that, so that's kind of shitty. Every time I pull the car apart I have to buy a new head gasket, but hopefully this will be the last time I have the car apart for a while. Still loving this paint. Can't get over how good it looks. I'm really stoked. I can't wait to see the motor in there, all shiny and everything. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get to work. I'm not going to show the whole rocker arm assembly, torquing and everything, because I've done that before. But then after that, I'm going to try to install the oil pump on the side of this thing. I have the Honda Bond and all the necessary O-rings, so we should be good. I got this one in today. This is the one I was missing for the oil pump. It goes right here, and then I have this O-ring new as well. So I have both of these, and we're going to Honda Bond this whole thing all the way around, or not up here, but all the way around the sealing surface, and then we're going to go ahead and throw it on after we throw on this balance shaft here. But yeah, so I'm going to get to work, and I'll show you guys that process when I get there. So you can see the balance shaft goes in right here. You got the two bolts to hold it in with a little locking bracket that holds it in. And in here there are journals, just like crank or anything else. These journals are dry and maybe dirty or something, so I'm going to go in there and put a little bit of oil on each one, see if I can drip it in from the top, or maybe reach in from up here or something like that, because I want to oil up those journals before I throw that in, so we don't have a dry start. But it is just a balance shaft, but it should be oiled in the first start. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some assembly lube on that and shoot that in the slot, and then go ahead and tighten down those two bolts there. There may be a torque spec for that, I'm not sure. I might look it up, or might just crank it down. I don't think it's too crucial. But yeah, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll be ready to put the oil pump on this thing. So right here I have the balance shaft, and I went ahead and cleaned it up pretty good, and I cleaned up the journals on the inside, and I was actually able to drop the engine assembly lube like right here where the mains are, and it ends up like dripping down onto the sides, and then it gets onto the journal, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to get a little bit more assembly lube here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit all three of our I guess journals on this thing here. And maybe a little more. That's a little much. Stuff comes out fast, it surprises you. And so I'm just going to work that in here, all three of these, and then we're going to go ahead and send it home here. So it's just like putting a cam into a Chevy motor. You just gotta kind of gently put it in. Make sure you find your way in nice and straight. This isn't nearly as long as a cam, so it's actually pretty easy. Alright, now it's seated. Spins pretty freely in there. Sounds decent. Alright, so Now I'm going to go ahead and get our plate. So we got our plate here that I grabbed, and we're going to go ahead and put it onto the balance shaft, and then I had to pull it out a little bit to put it on the balance shaft. And now I'm going to put it back in. Seems, yeah, you got to pull it off a little bit. And now we got it to go in, and that's what locks the balance shaft in. And start our 10mm bolts here. And I'm just going to run them down with this impact, but I'm going to check if there's a torque spec. Otherwise, we'll just crank them down a little bit tighter. But yeah, so now that our balance shaft's in, I'm going to get ready to do this oil pump. So what I've got here are my 2 O-rings that are going to go onto my oil pump. By the way, I did check and there is no torque spec on that front balance shaft, so I just cranked them down pretty tight. So what I'm going to do for a little trick here to keep these O-rings in their spot, because they've got to stay in here and in there. So I'm going to clean that out really good. I don't want to spray anything on that, but I'm going to go ahead and spray a little bit of adhesive spray on these O-rings right here, or a lot of it. And then I want these O-rings to tack up. I'm going to wait for them to get nice and sticky, and then I'm going to go ahead and put them in their respective areas in the oil pump, and they should stay there during the process of me putting it on, because I'd hate for one to fall out and get lodged somewhere and we wouldn't see it and put it back together and end up having an issue like that. That's just no fun. So we're going to make sure these things are good and stuck in there so that when we're putting our Honda Bond on there and everything, we don't knock them out of place and whatnot. So yeah, I'm going to wait for this to tack up and then I'll go ahead and throw them in. So I got the first one in there, went in pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put in my second O-ring. I'll show you this guy. Hopefully it fits as good as the other one did, but it fit nice and tight in there. Alright, so we put that in the slot, and just checking with my finger, that doesn't move at all, so it doesn't even spin. The old one spun in its place, so this one doesn't even spin, so we know that that's definitely not going to fall out. And this guy's in there nice and tight and glued down, so he should be good too. So we're ready to clean off our balance shaft here. You probably can't see, but I'm going to clean off the journals on here, and then I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lubricant on it, and after we do that, then we are ready to throw this whole thing into the block after we Honda Bond our whole surface here, our whole mating surface. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and clean this off, and then I will throw a little bit of lubricant on this as well as the block, the bearings in the block, and then I'll show you guys how I'm going to hit this with GMS, or not GMS, but Honda Bond, whatever it is, engine sealant. It's all the same stuff. Alright, so I did actually forget to mention a couple of things that I just realized myself. If you look right here, this is the balance shaft assembly here, so it's like a planetary gear set. This one right here, it kind of looks like the water pump, but it's not. It has a gear in the bottom right here, and that meshes up with this gear right here. And if you look in the back here, you might be able to see where you may not be able to see. If you look in the back here, you should be able to see the hole that is in that balance shaft, and you can see that hole right there. And something to know, it's pretty cool, oops, pretty cool, this right here is an access hole, right? And so if you take out this bolt, there's a hole on the inside here, and you can stick a pin. It's supposed to be a specific size, I think it's like 6mm or something, but if you guys have a door pin, that seems to work pretty well. So if you stick this in the side of the motor right here, it comes out right there. And that right there should go inside of the hole in your balance shaft. And if it goes in the hole, you'll know if it does or not, because if it goes on like the side here, you'll feel it kind of almost go in, but it won't. It has to go all the way through. And you'll feel it. It'll go all the way through. And this door pin is about the perfect size. So if you don't have the special Honda tool, the door pin is good. So what we actually have to do is, since there's 2 bolts that run through this balance shaft assembly here, we have to do that after we put the Honda Bond on, and all in the same sort of process. So I have the new O-ring for that balance shaft assembly there. He's got a little bit of adhesive spray on it. I'm going to stick that on, and then we're going to put that in here, and that'll be all ready for us. So I'm going to lay out all the bolts where they go. There's two longer ones that go in the top, and the rest are all the little 10s. And then there's those two big bolts for this assembly, and then there's one nut, and that nut goes onto this stud right here. So within 5 minutes is what they recommend. We have to load this all up with Honda Bond, put it on, and then get everything tightened down. And there is a torque spec for those balance shaft bolts and the nut. So I'm going to look up that torque spec. For some reason 18 foot-pounds rings a bell, but I'm going to look it up. And so I'm going to just go with the impact gun and all the other oil pump bolts in here, just because the torque spec is like 108 inch-pounds. It's right around what my impact gun is rated for, so we should be all set there. But yeah, this kind of has to be a seamless process. I'm going to try to do the best that I can with filming, but I'm sort of on a time crunch here, so we'll do the best that we can. Also, I did grease up these seals with some white grease, and I did the same thing on the crank and the balance shaft itself, because I want those to slide over nicely. I'm not changing those seals because I already have. So yeah, next time you guys see, hopefully I'll be putting it on. I'll show you guys how I spread the Honda Bond on this thing, and then I'll show myself putting it on, hopefully, and torquing everything down. But hopefully everything goes smoothly and according to plan, and yeah. Alright, so I'm going to begin putting this Honda Bond on here. So I'm just going to put a nice layer, nice bead. Alright, so hopefully you guys could see everything that went on in that video. I thought for a second I was missing a bolt, but I realized that this bolt right here that has the helper to, I forget what it's called, but it keeps the seal in the balance shaft from popping out, because that was a common problem on these cars. So that is a redesign, but my car had that from factory. So that was the extra bolt that I was missing. I found that, slapped that in. Torqued these guys down after a little bit of a struggle with the torque wrench, but I was able to get them on, and everything went over nice and smooth. Both the crank and the balance shaft, the seals went on really smooth, and this guy went on nice. You can see our timing mark there. We got the little dots, and the dot lines up, and you can see we have our pin in the side here, so it allows us not to turn it. So if we were to take this pin out and spin this thing, you know, 1 revolution, the pin would not go in. See, it doesn't even want to stay up. And if you spin it again, it's 2 revolutions, the pin still won't go in. And this guy's only correct once every 3 revolutions. So right here, we should be able to stick the pin in again. And if this guy's in time, and we stick the pin right in, works just fine. So I'll show you if it's not lined up, can't stick the pin in. So yeah, very important if you want your engine to run smoothly, but everything was a success. I'm happy with the amount of ooze that we had. You can see we got just a little bit on this side over here. There's more on the other side, I think. Just a little bit on the front side, you can see we're oozing out here, but you want it to ooze out everywhere, and if you saw how much I applied, it was a good amount, but you could go maybe a little bit more. I might like to see a little bit more ooze out in some areas, but not too bad. I did wipe it off of this area here too, because we'll seal that when we go ahead and throw the oil pan on. But yeah, overall, really stoked. But yeah, I don't see why I can't get the cylinder head on tonight while I'm waiting for all that gasket maker to dry out nice before I go ahead and try to paint it or do anything with this oil pump. So I'm going to spin the engine over the other way and see if I can get started maybe throwing the cylinder head on this guy. Actually, I changed my mind. I don't think I'm going to put the cylinder head on the car tonight. I don't want to rush it. I think that it's something that can wait a little while. I want to make sure all the mating surfaces are clean. I want to clean up my my holes for my studs, and I want to make sure that I put the studs in with Loctite and torque them down this time into the block. And I want to do a little bit of research about torquing them into the block, because it says hand tight, but I really think I should go maybe 10 foot-pounds or something like that, just to make sure that they're in. Because when I was pulling the head off, I actually loosened one of the studs, and one of the studs came out of the block instead of the nut coming off of the stud, which I wasn't really too excited about. So I want to do them again with Loctite and make sure they're good. So I'm going to read up on that, and yeah, I got plenty of other stuff to do. So I'm going to go ahead and work on a different project right now. But appreciate you watching, and I hope that you enjoyed and maybe learned something. But yeah, stay tuned. Only going to get better from here. We are coming together quick. Tomorrow I'm going to try to get a lot of work done on this thing, so hopefully within the coming weeks we get to fire this thing up. So stay tuned for that, and I think this thing's going to run great. I'm really excited. It's going to be really fresh, and it's going to look really good too.